Alright, so we are finally back into another Dragon Ball Super card game video. This one, yes, you read the title right. We're gonna go through five different budget decks that are post-ban after Bardock and as well as Charles Wish got added to the ban list. We're gonna go through 5 of them and see what's going on. There's a few caveats. One, I consider a budget deck under $65. I mean, when you really think about it, you're spending $65 on like a brand new game, right? You spend it on a number of different things, and I feel like 65 is a pretty good budget number for TCG in the first place. A lot of these other ones like Yu-Gi-Oh! And etc. can get pretty expensive. Thankfully for this game, a lot of the good cards are actually common, and unless you want to play a specific archetype like AOD or Broly or etc., you're gonna have to pay a little bit more for the SRs and as well as the secret rares. Another caveat is that these are pretty much based on top decks. These are all my versions of those decks. I'll give a shout out where they are, and as well as you can always modify them for later. So let's get right into it. Alright, first off, everybody knows him. Everybody either loves or hates him, and that is Mil Janemba. Now, one more thing I do want to mention is that all of these decks, again, are going to be under $65, except for the last one. There's a few dollars off, but they're also intended for newer players trying to get into the game and don't want to spend too much money. They're not going to be perfect, but if you compare to other top decks in previous events or upcoming events, depending on when you're actually watching this video, I'm sure you can compare and actually do a little bit better with it. With Mil Janemba, you can't have anything more than 5 in your deck. You swing, you draw, and then of course they mill too. With this one, well, before we actually take a look at it, it is a classic mono blue deck with a lot of pseudo super combos and as well as a few other things that will help you survive, because that's all you really want to do with this deck. And the most expensive cards are actually just Senzu Bean as well as the Angel of Destruction Janemba. Everything else is pretty much common. There's not really too many SRs or etc. that you want to play in Janemba. There are a few other tech choices that you always could go with, as well as DBS decks takes forever to load, as we do have options like the 3-drop Vegeta that returns everything to hand, and a few other things like that. But because this is mono blue, it kind of stays true to what it wants to do. I mean, as you take a look at it, and if you take a look at any other Janemba deck, you want to keep it simple, you want to keep it direct, and I don't think Janemba is really going to go anywhere, especially with this new multicolored support, which obviously this doesn't play. But in order to keep it in the budget, you kind of focus on the Psyche Demon and as well as the Charles' Heart to get out these two bad boys, and as well as the Reality Bender Janemba. You play these at 2, you could play it at 3 or 4 if you can sustain that budget, but that's really the only kind of caveat in the budget term. Raging Spirit Son Gohan, it allows for another attacker and defense. Vegito for late game and as well as a draw / more defense. Supreme time for 15k on the front side, 20k on the back side, and as well as a draw. You have a lot of different options, but really Senzu Bean is the most expensive and one of the most important cards in this deck. And the only thing that you really have to watch out for is TN. There's not really much you can do about it other than try to play the deck more often and it played against TN. So that's all I can really recommend for that one. Another thing about the sideboard, it's pretty standard, I would say. Tumafuba, Champa if you need it. Toki Toki is really just a tech choice. I just threw that in there because we do play Kami and Cronoa. Mercenary Tau, you can always play this at 3 instead of Cronoa, mainly because of hand destruction. Lord Slug still is a thing, and you might be surprised to see him in this list. And of course, Crisis Crusher for the Kid Goku matchup. Speaking of, look at that, it's Kid Goku. And this is the red version of Kid Goku. The yellow version does have a few different cards like the Championship Goku, which you could play Ginyu, but I just do it for flashiness. But I think yellow is kind of right now without Super Shenron. Blue is a little more expensive with the Senzu Bean and as well as all these other options that you have to play, especially the SR in this deck. And then red is just a little bit better. It's better at being a budget deck, that is. The most expensive cards here are going to be the 4-star ball and as well as the SR Adventure Begins Goku. The Kid Goku that really drives home the entire deck from this 4-star ball into playing the 3-drop big bodies and etc. And of course the leader draws 1 from the front side with the 4-star ball and gets 5k, along with the other side drawing 2 and then dropping 1. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with this deck. The initial deck that I had before on the channel had Fearless Pan and a few other things, a little more expensive. This is actually pretty much based on Josh's deck. He's been on the channel a couple different times. He was top 16 as far as the San Diego celebrations. So this is pretty much based on that. So shout out to him. We do play 5 balls instead of 6. We do play the Dark Power Messane at 4 because it's a little more important right now as far as the meta and as well as going forward. I'm telling you, and as well as 2 different intensifier power trunks. Yes, it is good to have the 3 Champas with more trunks, but I think overall the Dark Power Messane is a little bit more important. If you want to change this to 3 and 3, I would not be against that at all. You do play 2 of the Massanes for more massive mass removal because the spot removal comes from the Feisty Chi-Chi and as well as the draw to play out the Kid Goku and as well as the Android 8. And then we have Planet M2 for the mirror match if you ever get there, and as well as just in general. And it's a good card to pitch on the backside. 2 Time Ruler Toa for the mirror match. A couple Barlocks Unleashed for the Green Broly matchup. Mercenary Tau for any kind of hand control, and Cronoa and TN for those specific matchups. This is all pretty good. I would highly recommend to kind of try it out, change a few things here and there, but this is a pretty good start as far as a budget deck goes. Okay, now this is a little bit different for number 3. This is actually Broly GT, and that rhymed. Wow. If you look at a few different events, Broly GT has been up and down everywhere, and in a best of 1 environment, he is actually incredibly good. He has changed because of the swap hurt or nerf or whatever you want to call it, because that the 1-drop Bardock doesn't allow that 1 extra attack, and as well as a free swap into the 2-drop. Yes, I think that's still really good if it was still existing, but now it's not. So now we do a little bit more red instead. I cannot stop rhyming apparently. We do have a few expensive cards, but not really. I think everything here is not over $10. It's actually kind of crazy, especially for what you're trying to do and what you're trying to get. Even the Triple Flash, I hope that's right. Yeah, Triple Flash is only $1. Like that is insane. But the card is really good, and we do play three Shigesh into 1 Goku. I wanted to put that 1 Goku because it is still searchable by Planet Vegeta, and worst case scenario, the Shigeshs are dead, and yeah, you just want that draw in order to kind of keep going. And if you look at the deck itself, again, there's a pretty focused line of what you want to do. If you do go into the Cronoa route as far as not being able to Shigesh out the 3-drop into Triple Flash or the Victorious Fist, then the Unbreakable is actually really good early game. So that way you get more draw, you defend yourself, and you're able to get to that turn 3, which is pretty much what you want to do to end the game anyway. This can very well be a turn 2 deck. I mean, any Broly GT variant, as long as it's built right, can be pretty much fine. The Time Magic instead of Nimbus because, again, Super Shenron's gone. The 4 Planet because pretty much everything here is searchable that is 4 or less in the Saiyan. The Pint-Sized Goku searches out the Victorious Fist, the 3-drop Triple Flash, and as well as Unbreakable. 3 Batarang, yes, is a little heavy, but when you really look at it, this is the only package, like the yellow package is really the only thing that actually has any extra cards. And 4 Cold Bloodless, I'm a Cold Bloodless kind of guy. Like if you play it at 4, that's just me. And going forward in the meta, I feel like it's actually going to be pretty important to play that as well. 4 combination Tac Pan, and then 4 combo to actually replace that Bardock. Yes, you can, if you know they can't play Cronoa like Announcer or something like that, or if you haven't seen the first game, or if it's best of 1 and you know they're not playing Cronoa, didn't see it, Kaba is going to be really good to swing, take that life, get that double strike down, and then get that Triple Flash after you awaken Shigesh, etc., right? He's also a pretty good game ender because when you do swing and you restand with the Broly effect, he does gain that 10k and keep it. So if you swing again, take that life again, you swing with the 25,000 double striker. It's nothing to scoff at. We do have a couple of things like the strategies of Universe 7 for Baby or anything red related or anything reduced related, or anything that you know that's going to die the next turn. You can just give a barrier to the Vegeta to kill barrier. That's just another target for Shigesh, and you can untap 1 after you play it for 2. It's pretty good. Minus Killing Zone for any Cold Bloodless. They will Cold Bloodless this if they are putting in Cronoa and stop your play. Speaking of Cronoa there, and then TN Bardock for the Green Broly, and then Mass Saiyan for mass removal. Moving on, look at this. It's Slug. I am very surprised that people aren't playing Slug more often. I'm really trying to figure out, other than him not being able to draw like a ton of cards, he is really just a really good control leader, and he is very budget. Like even after the set release and all the support, he is in really good place right now. And I feel like after post ban, he's going to be a very, very good go-to hand destruction leader. Yes, Tao is incredibly annoying. I still hate him, but the only thing that's really expensive here, getting away from that subject, is going to be the Paragus, which is $26 for a playset. It's just kind of ridiculous, but it does help out a lot as far as the deck, and it does help as far as the draw. And looking at the deck itself, this is pretty straightforward. You have extra self-awaken removal, or self-awakening with the Gohan, and as well as pressure, and as well as the sacrifice is just an additional negate, and as well as just netting you a card early on. And you might be wondering why we have that. Is because you want to go ahead and awaken as soon as possible, so that way you can drop his cards as soon as possible, or drop their cards as soon as possible, and as well as draw 2 cards as soon as possible. So it kind of makes sense when you do that. And then we have 2 of the Vegeta to blow up all the 1-drops. The Whis and as well as the Borgos does or can affect the Lord Slug yet again, because you are untapping 1 after, or you can untap 1 after you get 1 from the drop. The Agent of Destruction Lord Slugs are actually pretty cheap, and they're very, very effective. It's a 2-drop with the wings on board, or you can get them for the Lord Slug, and then after you untap 1, you can pay 1 to get an Anguilla out. And it's just a really good combo. Like Lord Slug can be very straightforward when you play its archetype. Shout out to Brohan when that he plays a separate archetype, separate kind of deck, but it is still hand destruction. I think I really like that. But overall, it focuses on green stuff. You know, the preemptive, the shocking death ball, all very cheap stuff. And we play the Father Son Kamehameha because it can't be cold-blasted, it can't be negated, just like the Demigra, and it's just a 1-cost, kill that thing kind of card. Double Impact Krillin for the Tau, minus Gilly Zone for anything here, really. Cronoa for Shigesh, TN for any blue leaders, Dimension Banisher Fu is supposed to be, I do believe, the Championship Bardock, but DBS decks just kind of put it there, so sorry about that. And then Mass Saiyan for the removal, kind of a go-to card if you haven't seen that already. But overall, very, very good deck. Try it out. Slug is very good. I can't say that enough. And then finally, Pan. Now, if there was anything that Pan is good at, which she is always going to be good at things, it is that after a meta has not been decided or a new format has been introduced, which I think, you know, most leaders outside of Super Shenron and as well as the Child's Wish decks, if you look at those leaders like Green Broly, etc., they're still going to be good. Like those are the things you kind of have to consider. But when people start experimenting things and start putting out these decks, Pan kind of regulates that, being one of the best, if not the best, Chain Attack Xeno leader. Speaking of, Chain Attack and as well as Fearless Pan are the 2 most expensive cards in this deck. Everything else is pretty much commons. I don't know why After Image is $3. Like, let's talk about that for a second. And then this one is going to be pretty straightforward. It's a little bit different from everything. Or a little bit different from other Pan decks you might see, but this is because it is a budget deck. Ability Unleash Son Gohan, because the Burst Attack Gohans are a little bit more expensive, and Fearless Pan is one of those cards you don't really want to drop. It is something that is just incredibly good, especially if you're playing for Double Shot Vegetas, especially if you're playing Everybody's Pal Yamcha, Bodyguard Legic, etc. You're going to be giving those guys Double Strike and 5k. It's just too important. Play a 3-2 split of the counters, not too bad. Digging Deep at 3 for Self-Awakening. Time Patrol Trunks because it's sociable by Yamcha, and it is incredibly good for the Pain Leader effect, so that way you can choose what you draw next. Minus Gilly Zone in the main. I'm a kind of guy for any kind of red deck, especially if it's combo, especially if it's something like Chain Attack that you don't really play it in games with Preemptive Strike or Quote Bloodlust. And at worst, it's a draw 1 for free. Like I can't really say too much about that. Saying Kaba for more additional awakening, and as well as the Hidden Power Supreme Kai. If you really think about it, you really do want to make sure that they take as much, well, at least this is how I play Pan. They take as much damage as possible and much life as possible early on, and then you chain attack, because as soon as they take it from life to hand, they build up a big hand, and then you chain attack, and now it's all gone, and now you have a tempo swing. But we do have a couple of the Unending Awakening on the backside for more aggro decks, if there are any now. Dark Power Mass Saiyan, Tau for their Dark Power Mass Saiyan, if you ever thought about that. If they side in Dark Power Mass Saiyan for this, you can play Binding M2 or Mercenary Tau. It works pretty good. 2 Haru Haru for the perfect draw 1 critical 20k attacker TN is amazing in pan because you only pay 1 and you get that draw, and it stops all untaps for blue leaders, and then some removal in the cheap overwhelm cards. Now that is it, guys. Let me know what you think. Do you have a different list as far as the top 5, or at least 5 different decks that are budget decks? There are plenty decks that are budget, but can they compete within the format? And we don't really know what the format is, but I can probably take a guess of what it could look like, and that might be a different video. But if anything, let me know in the comments below. Subscribe if you are new, like, dislike, all that other stuff, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Later.